What if I told you there's a train that arrives at exactly midnight, but it's not on any schedule? Tonight's story follows Alex, a teenager who starts having vivid dreams about a mysterious red train with a faceless conductor. But when the dreams begin bleeding into reality and that haunting whistle echoes through the night, Alex discovers that some trains don't take you where you want to go. They take you where you belong. So dim the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't look out your window if you hear a train whistle at midnight. This is the Midnight Line.
The train arrived at precisely midnight. It always came without fail, silent until the final breath of the 11th hour. At least that's what the legends say. It had started with a dream. A red train, impossibly long, waiting under a violet sky. The sound of 100 whispers behind fogged windows. A conductor with no face punching a glowing ticket. Night after night, it appeared in my dreams. At first, I ignored it. Then the dreams became louder, more insistent. Then the dreams came when I wasn't asleep. Out of the corner of my eye, I often saw a red streak passing by, ashen smoke billowing up to the clouds. I started searching for answers by asking around my school, wondering if anyone else had seen it. They looked at me like I was crazy, so I didn't push the subject. I tried the library, poring over local news articles, photograph archives, and maps of local railways. The only rail station we have nearby doesn't run any longer, and hasn't in decades. I finally found an answer on an old, early 2000s web forum that somehow was still accessible. Has anyone else heard a train at night? The forum post was titled. Digging into the responses bore a series of replies, all confirming that they had. Some even described the train, even though they hadn't seen it themselves. They spoke of a red train, and the conductor with no face, and its wailing call. None of them had ever seen the train in person, though, and the discussion died out quickly. But those that had heard it all said the same thing. They heard it at midnight. Always midnight. I was awoken the next night by a loud noise. I looked at my bedside clock. Midnight. Then I heard it again. Its whistle cut through the night's silence like a scream, yet seemed to wake no one else. The sound came from the east, towards the old abandoned train station I had located on the map. No one used that station anymore. It was derelict. The whistle cut through the night once again, and I found myself drawn to it. I dared not, yet at the same time I couldn't resist. I had to find it, so I went. That night, under a slivered moon, I slipped out of my room. A mile or so later, I found the path. The path to the old station was overgrown and crumbling, swallowed by moss and vines. But the moment my foot hit the first step, the air changed. The fog thickened. The world held its breath. And then I heard it as I reached the station gates. The distant rumble of what I would come to know as the Midnight Line. The gates were open. As I stepped through them, I could hear the hiss and moan of an old steam train. And then I saw it. It was real, tangible, monstrous, and waiting for me. I hesitated, heart pounding. But in the end, I stepped forward. The door opened with a sigh. Inside, the train was impossibly long and lined with plush red seats, old-fashioned brass lamps, and velvet curtains. It smelled faintly of dust, ash, and something floral, like lilies at a funeral. I wasn't alone. Each car was filled with people, still, silent, staring out windows. None of them moved as I walked past, except to occasionally glance my way with hollow, haunting eyes. As I walked from car to car, the faces began to look familiar. It started with people I vaguely recognized, but couldn't quite place where. Then I saw them. My old teacher from second grade. A neighbor who died 3 years ago, a friend who'd moved away. All of them, people from my life. All of them sitting like mannequins in evening wear. But then I saw her and stopped in my tracks, my heart in my throat. It was my sister. My sweet baby sister, no older than the day she had tragically died. She didn't look at me. She just whispered,
"You shouldn't have come."
The train lurched forward. I turned and tried the door behind me. Locked. Ahead? Locked. The car windows had no handles. The train was moving faster now, far faster than any normal train. The countryside flashed by like streaks of oil on glass. Then the lights flickered. When they returned, the passengers were different. Their faces were still familiar, but now they were older, paler, wearier. Some had blank eyes, some bore strange wounds. One man's mouth was stitched shut with wire, and they all were staring at me. I sat down, gripping the armrest so hard my knuckles turned white. The speaker overhead crackled.
"Next stop, nowhere."
I tried to scream for help, but the words caught in my throat. The train groaned. The lights dimmed. Then a figure appeared down the aisle. It was the conductor, tall and rail-thin, wearing a uniform that shimmered in the dim light. His face was a void, no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth plane of pale skin. He held out a hand.
"Ticket, please."
I shook my head. I don't have one. The conductor didn't speak. He simply opened his palm. A ticket appeared there, glowing faintly red, pulsing like a heartbeat. I took it. My name was written on it.
"Everyone has a ticket."
The conductor said in a quiet voice. I stared at the ticket. The letters shifted slightly, dancing across the paper, as though they didn't want to be read. But my name was there. And something else. Destination, end. My hands trembled. What is this? The conductor tilted its head, its face unreadable. Then it turned and walked away, vanishing through the far end of the car, even though there was no door. The train rattled, the wheels shrieking on the rails below. Outside, the scenery had changed. There were no towns or trees, just an endless stretch of gray mist and twisted shadows writhing through it like smoke. Occasionally, something would press against the window, smearing the glass with long bony fingers before vanishing again. I stood stumbling down the aisle, trying each door between cars. Locked. But as I passed the other passengers, their heads slowly turned to follow me. Some were weeping, some were smiling. Some whispered my name.
"Alex, Alex, come sit with us."
I looked for an unoccupied car and finally found one, or so I thought. Car 7, etched with black iron numbers. The knob burned cold in my hand as I looked through the glass into a dim, empty car. Inside it was quiet. The lights were dimmer. The car was empty, almost. She sat alone at the far end, drawing in a notebook. She looked no older than 6, her hair in pigtails, her dress faded and water-stained. My little sister. I approached cautiously. "Hey, are you okay?" She didn't look up.
"You're not supposed to be here yet.
What do you mean?
You got on too early. That's bad. It changes things."
What things? She looked up, her eyes huge and glassy.
"Your story."
And suddenly, she wasn't my sister anymore. Her skin peeled away like wet tissue, revealing something hollow and flickering beneath. Something wrong. A void. I screamed and stumbled backward into the aisle. But when I looked again, she was just a girl, humming to herself. I ran, down the cars, through ghostly crowds. One car was filled with people frozen mid-scream. Another played old black and white movies of my own childhood across the walls. My 5th birthday party, the time I fell and broke my arm, her funeral. In every frame, there was a figure in the background, unnoticed but ever present. Someone with no face. I ran and didn't stop until I reached a car that was pitch black, except for a faint red glow ahead. I stepped inside. The door slammed behind me, and the lights came on. It was my house, a perfect replica of my living room, but aged, distorted. The walls cracked, the furniture draped in sheets, old photographs nailed upside down on the walls, and in the middle of it all was a chair. My grandfather sat in it, but he was wrong. His face was a perfect mirror of the man I remembered, but the eyes were cloudy, the skin too pale, too smooth. He smiled.
Hey, kiddo, you made it.
I couldn't breathe. You died. My grandfather shrugged.
We all do, eventually. But here, things are different.
This isn't real. He leaned forward.
Isn't it? You've ridden the line. That makes you one of us now.
I don't want to be one of you. I want to go home. The house began to melt. The walls dripped ink, the ceiling twisted. His grandfather's smile stretched until it tore, and the train lurched violently. I was thrown backward through the door and into the corridor. I landed on a floor that wasn't carpeted, but made of faces, dozens of them frozen in fear, mouths open in silent screams. The walls of this car breathed. The air was thicker. The speaker crackled again.
Approaching final destination. End of the line.
I crawled away from the floor of faces, my palms pressing into cold cheeks and lifeless eyes. As I scrambled upright, the faces began to murmur.
Turn back. Too late. He's coming.
The door behind me groaned open by itself. I stumbled through and slammed it shut, heart hammering like a drum in my chest. This new car was narrow and long, dimly lit by a lantern swinging from the ceiling. The walls were covered in scratched names, hundreds, maybe thousands, etched in desperate, jagged strokes. And at the very end of the car stood a mirror. Not just any mirror. My mirror, the one from my bedroom. Cracked in the corner. Marker smudges from when I was 6. A faint fingerprint still clinging to the glass from the last time I touched it. I walked toward it slowly. My reflection was off. It moved when I didn't. It grinned. Then it whispered, lips moving soundlessly, saying something I couldn't understand. The mirror shattered without warning, and where it had been was now a hole, a black void swirling with crimson mist. Something was inside. I backed away, but the car behind me had vanished. There was only the void now. And then the conductor returned, towering, silent, stretching impossibly tall, head brushing the ceiling, his hands no longer covered in flesh, now bone descending from long, distorted limbs. I didn't mean to come here, I pleaded. I didn't know.
But you did. The moment you stepped onto the platform. The line calls only those who remember. And you remembered.
I didn't understand. Remember what? The conductor pointed toward the void. Seeing no other option, I stepped through. This car was different. It was a hospital room. Monitors beeped. The air smelled of antiseptic and fear. In the bed lay someone connected to wires and tubes, pale, unmoving. It was me, my own body. I stepped forward, heart beating in my chest. What is this? From the shadows came a voice, my mother's, soft, weeping.
He was in an accident. They don't know if he'll wake up.
Then another voice, a doctor.
We're losing him.
Everything blurred. The train, the car, the whispering passengers. I suddenly knew what this was. I was dying. The train was death. Or something close. A crossing place. But I wasn't gone yet. Not fully. The conductor appeared beside me again. Why me? I asked, tears running down my face.
Because you remembered.
The conductor said, placing his decrepit hand on my shoulder.
You were a child when the train first came. You heard it when your grandfather died. You saw it when your sister passed. Most forget. You didn't. And now, the line remembers you.
I looked down at the bed, at my body, weak and broken. Then at the endless train behind me, the many cars, the lost souls. I realized something. This place fed on memory, on grief. It was a trap for those who couldn't let go. I stood tall. Okay. I readied myself and made my move. The conductor's head tilted, perplexed as I grabbed his keys and shook away from him. I ran. This time not away from something, but towards something. The lights flickered violently, the walls howled, the air screamed. Outside the windows, the mist thinned. I saw the shape of a hospital, a room, my mother's hand on me. The train doors opened. Just one set. The last door. A single chance. The conductor gave a slow, menacing groan. I jumped through the doors, turning the lock behind me. The world vanished in a blinding flash. I gasped awake. I was in a hospital bed. Monitors beeped like distant applause. The air was cold and real and full of life. My mother was there, asleep in a chair, a book falling from her lap. The light from the window was pale morning. I touched my chest, still whole, still breathing, but something was wrong. I remembered everything. The train, the faces, my sister, my grandfather, the mirror, the conductor. It hadn't been a dream. It had been realer than this room. Doctors flooded in, speaking in relief and shock. It turns out I had been in a coma for 3 days. They didn't expect me to recover.
A miracle.
Someone whispered. But I just stared at the IV drip, unable to feel relief. The next few weeks passed in a haze. Back home, things should have felt normal. School, friends, my bedroom, the cracked mirror, but everything carried a kind of afterimage. I heard whispers in empty rooms, saw shadows at the edge of the street. Once in a passing train, he caught a reflection of the conductor watching from the window. And sometimes late at night, I hear the low, far-off sound of a train whistle, always at midnight. Then a letter came, no stamp, no address, just my name on the envelope in looping script. Inside, a single ticket, the same as before. The other side was blank, except for a smudge, a fingerprint. My own. I tried to throw it away, burn it, but every morning it was back, on my desk, in my pocket, once even under my pillow. And the worst part, I was forgetting. Pieces of my life slowly began to fall away like ash. The color of my childhood bike, the last thing my grandfather said, the smell of my mother's cooking, all gone, consumed. I soon realized it was because the train hadn't let me go. Not really. It had just loaned me back. I told my friends. They laughed. I told a therapist. He gave me pills, but nothing stopped it. Then one night, I found myself walking again. Down the street, past the shops, onto the path. My feet knew the way. And there it was, the station, the platform cracked and glowing faintly. The train, waiting, its windows dark, its doors yawning open. The conductor stood at the entrance, arms folded behind his back.
You came back.
He said. I never left, I whispered. I stepped onto the train, but this time it didn't move. The lights stayed off. The other passengers stared blankly, their eyes glowing faintly. I looked down at my hands. They were gaunt. The conductor walked past me.
You tried to cheat the line. It doesn't forget.
The conductor reached into his coat and pulled out a book. He opened it. Inside were names, thousands of them. He wrote, Alex Granger, seat 13, car 7. A hand reached out and grasped mine. It was my sister.
I'm sorry.
She said. The lights of the train flared on. I tried to cry, but no tears came. I reached for the door, but it was gone, and I found I didn't care. The windows turned black. The train began to move.
Somewhere far away, a mother wept in a cold hospital room as the heart monitor gave one final echoing tone. No warning, no cause, just gone. On a fog-covered track, the midnight line rolls on. A train for the forgotten, the fading, the almost was, the lost. If you ever see it, don't board it, because once you're on, you never really get off.
Thanks for watching Bedtime Horror. If this story sent chills down your spine, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling tales. Now, share your real paranormal encounters in the comments below. You never know, your story might just become our next bedtime horror.